to go vote in the primary tomorrow. That's what I want them to do. And so I think I got that. And he said, well, why if there's only one candidate? And I said, well, because it checks that they know where their voting place is, and it checks that their voter registration information is correct and valid. So that's why they should go vote in a primary, because when the real day comes, we want to make sure that vote really counts. Getting our message across to different constituency groups is really important. And Hector and I got together this month and talked about different ways that we can reach out to the Hispanic community across South Georgia. We have a very large and legal Hispanic community, and they are not registered to vote. And voter registration is one of the things that we're really going to work on in that community. Renee Williams is with the South Georgia Pride community, and she's going to come and talk to us a little bit about effectively reaching out to that community. Renee.
Hello. Kind of wrote something here, kind of telling about some issues that are affecting the LGBT community here in Georgia. Well, my name is Renee Williams. I am a mother, a beekeeper, a Democrat, the assistant executive director for a local nonprofit organization, and I'm also a lesbian. My labels all define who I am, but the last one that I mentioned is the main one that many politicians focus on. My relationship of 8.5 years is no different than anyone else's, with the exception that in the state of Georgia, state employees' jobs are in jeopardy. There is no protection against hate crimes, and my relationship has no legal recognition, all because of sexual orientation. Recently in Atlanta, a community heard testimonies on behalf and against House Bill 630. That's the LGBT Workplace Protection Bill. This bill would prevent Georgia government agencies to discriminate based on an employee's sexual orientation or gender identity. This bill would protect 174,000 employees working for the state of Georgia. It would bring the state of Georgia employment policies in line with the policies of 24 other states and the District of Columbia. It would also bring Georgia in line with over 150 of Georgia's largest employers, 13 local municipalities, and 10 state universities. It does not, however, address private employment in Georgia. This bill is supported by 76% of Georgia voters. But the other week, this bill that had been introduced with 70 sponsors and co-sponsors, 57 Democrats, 12 Republicans, and 1 independent. It was met with opposition. Tanya Diddy, state director for the anti-gay group Concerned Women for America, testified urging committee members to oppose the bill. She compared LGBT citizens to, quote, pedophilia, transsexuality, zoophilia, and necrophilia. She also stated, and quote, we do not believe the government should have a special protected minority class. It was tabled with a 3-2 vote. Those voting against the bill was Stephen Allison, a Republican, Billy Maddox, Republican, and Randy Nix, Republican. Those voting to oppose the tabling of the bill were Mary Margaret, Democrat, and Pam Stevenson, also a Democrat. Here in Georgia, there is no hate crime law. Georgia is only one of 5 states without a hate crime law. Hate crime legislation passed in Georgia in 2000. However, the language did not include categories. Therefore, the new law was challenged in court. It was overturned by the Georgia Supreme Court in 2004. The definition of a hate crime was determined to be too vague. Hate crime legislation has been introduced every year since 2004, and every year it has included categories, including sexual orientation and gender identity. The legislation has failed to pass it despite having broad support, including GBI Director Vernon Keenan, several religious organizations, national and international police organizations. So why does Georgia still need a hate crime law since the passing of the 2009 Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crime Prevention Act? Well, number one, the new federal law does not apply to state criminal charges, only to felonies. A majority of the hate crimes cannot be prosecuted under the federal law. Number 2, state law could require statistic tracking. Statistics provide critical information to prevent and combat hate crimes. The 2009 federal hate crime law does not require local law enforcement agencies to track and report statistics. And if Georgia had a hate crime legislation, additional state resources would be provided to local law enforcement agencies for officer training, statistic tracking, and investigating hate crimes. So please call or email your state lawmaker and urge them to support hate crime legislation and the House Bill 630. And the other concern for LGBT citizens in Georgia is that our federal rights are being denied. Right now, in the Republican fight for the presidential nomination, the candidates have been pushing a hot topic. Instead of focusing on hard issues, they want to use scare tactics. They want to vilify LGBT relationships and blame us for the demise of the traditional marriage. Well, I'm sorry, but at this point, I guess I must apologize for ruining Newt Gingrich's first 2 marriages. It was a lesbian's fault after all, right? Well, they want to make it a religious issue, but that's not what it is. What's happening is civil rights are being denied. 1,138 federal rights and protections are granted to married couples, not to lesbians, gays, who want to get married. 179 tax provisions take marital status into an account. If you're an LGBT family with children and you're not the biological parent or the adoptive parent of that child, you cannot get earned income tax credit, head of household status, or child tax credit. And let's also look at the Social Security. There's 3 examples here. You have family number 1, a married husband and wife who are both the biological parent to a child. The husband dies. They're eligible for surviving child benefits and for surviving parent benefits. The family number 2, it's a lesbian couple with a child. The biological parent of the child dies. They are eligible for surviving child benefits, but they are not eligible for surviving parent benefits because that second parent was possibly denied adoption. Then there's family number 3. This is a lesbian couple with a child. The parent who died was not the biological or adoptive parent, but was the main income source for this family. That family is not eligible for surviving child benefits, and it's not eligible for surviving parent benefits. Then we also have the Family and Medical Leave Act. Now, this guarantees family and medical leave to employees to care for parents, children, or spouses, but it currently does not provide leave for domestic partners or their families. And I believe that family and medical leave should be a benefit for all American workers. You talk about the immigration law. Immigration law does not allow lesbian or gay citizens or lesbian or gay permanent residents to petition for their same-sex partners to immigrate. Federal workers, there's employee benefits. There's marital status affects over 270 provisions. So that means no health benefits are given to same-sex partners of federal workers. And as far as COBRA, that's not given to partners of same-sex couples. So you see, it is much more than just a religious scare tactic that is being used against the LGBT citizens. And I'm grateful that our President, Barack Obama, is a decent human being. He is the only president that has said that DOMA is wrong and unconstitutional. I am not a second-class citizen. I am your sister, and I'm standing with you today, and I'm asking you to take a stand. Vote Democrat. Raise your voice up for fairness in the workforce, against hate crimes, and against denying people their federal rights. Georgia deserves better, the LGBT people deserve better, and together we can make a difference no matter who it is that we love. And if anybody wants to see that bill, I have it.
Rainey has been keeping track of a variety of bills that are of concern to her community. Hector has been paying attention to bills that are of concern to his community. Bikram has been keeping track of a variety of bills that are of concern to him in terms of health care and a variety of things. So if you haven't yet joined up on our Facebook group, by all means do. We keep a lot of information there and stuff. Alex Thomas, did you have something you wanted to say to us?
Yes, I wanted to invite everyone.
Oh, come to the mic. We can't hear you otherwise. Okay, after Alex.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to invite everyone to the Motorcade Against Corrections Corporation of America, the proposed private prison that's going to be located in Lowndes County. Thanks to Mr. Quarterman and Mr. Roberson leading up this event. It's going to start at US 84 and Inner Perimeter Road. We're going to have a motorcade there. And for safety purposes, we want everyone to gather on Dasher and Johnson Road. And we will pass by Valdosta City Hall where they will be in the work session. And basically want everyone to bring out signs, honk at the people, the walker alongs, and basically to show up and voice your opinion about this important issue. So if you have any other questions, we got flyers back there. I'm sure Mr. Quarterman and Mr. Roberson will answer your questions. So, thank you.
Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, gather at Dasher Johnson Road, which is near the corner of Inner Perimeter and 84. There are so many important topics, and everybody really needs to step up and pick their topic and jump right in. So, Bikram, did you have something you wanted to talk to us about? Okay. Bikram Mohanty, he's been agitating around town for a while.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have a map, and I haven't made copies, but I will. This is a map of how many Hope Scholars are in different counties. And Lowndes County and all South Georgia counties, actually most rural Georgia have very, very less Hope Scholars comparing to you probably can see there's few red counties here, and that is where most of the Hope Scholars are concentrated. We are in a very, very crisis stage as far as Hope Scholarship is concerned. We're having a rally, or Lanier County Democrats are organizing a rally, which was originally scheduled on March the 22nd. Now they're thinking to reschedule it to a Saturday because that was a Thursday. And we're trying to get Senator Jason Carter, who is the grandson of former President Carter, to come address this rally. Simply, Democrats are proposing that there need to be an income cap. Out of 10,000 Hope Scholars, only 400 are African Americans. There got to be something wrong. Now, Hope Scholarship was not meant for poor people or anything, but when you have a trend that's so troubling, there's only very few African Americans and poor income people are qualifying, there got to be something wrong. And we got to find out, we got to find it out now, we got to fix it. Otherwise, what is going to happen? Okay, so if you all have seen a house that has a leak roof, what do? You patch the roof, then you go paint the wall. So we got a leaking roof, we got to patch. We got to figure out how everybody in Georgia will fairly be picked to receive Hope Scholarship. And the Democrats have a very solid plan to put a cap, income cap. But the people on the other side of the aisle are fighting that no, that's not going to happen because it's merit-based. Sure, it is going to be merit-based. But do you really think somebody whose household income is $500,000, they are smart, definitely, and somebody whose household income is $100,000, who you want to give that scholarship and where that is going to lead us in the future? So I want to encourage all of you to show up for this rally, write to your legislators to support Hope Scholarship. A few weeks ago, and I keep tracking a little bit what happens with the other side of the aisle too. Sue Everett, the chairwoman of the Republican Party, wrote to her supporters saying, here are some Democrats who have changed party and joined with us. Well, actually, she says, this is her word, she's saying, no. Actually, they didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left us. Tonight, I want, just as an ordinary Democrat, I want them to know Democrats are really coming out of woods. And they are inspired, they are determined, they are courageous, they are going to fight as hell and take the Georgia Dome back. Just like we took the White House back. I thank you all very much.
Thank you, Bikram. As people come, you can say that these topics, that's a family topic. It's a youth topic. You can connect to every different community in our area. It's so easy to talk about topics that are fundamental to making our community work. In the House right now, in the Senate is Senate Bill, I think it's 269. Anyway, it's about the freedom to assemble. The Georgia Senate right now is trying to make it really hard for freedom of assembly and freedom of speech in Georgia. So I highly recommend that you go to the legislative website, check out what's going on there, and write a letter. I think that more and more people are getting the... Yes, sir. Oh, MoveOn.org has a petition to answer that one. The one that I saw was SignOn.org had one, too. There's a mountain of issues. Anything that would be of any interest to you, there's probably an issue that you could sign on to and get busy with. Okay. Are there any members that would wish to be heard at this time? Something that we haven't talked about yet that we oughta? Yes, sir.
Has anybody heard about Senate Bill 401? A few people. It has to do with solar power. In Georgia, we have what's called the territoriality law that's several decades old, which basically says municipalities can't buy electricity except from the monopoly utility company, which makes it very difficult to do things like, I just put up 60 solar panels on our farm workshop, and I'd like to be able to sell that power to some company in Atlanta that needs the power. I can't do that because of the territoriality law. SB 401 would change that. It's been stuck in one committee, and the chairman won't report it out. It was attempted to attach to another bill in another committee, but the votes weren't there. It may come up again on the floor of the House. The thing to do, if you're interested in this, is call your senator, who I'm afraid is Tim Golden, or contact any other senator in the Georgia legislature that you know and recommend that this thing pass or something like it. That's my issue, and solar energy is the fastest growing industry in the world, and if you looked outside earlier today, we have plenty of sun here in South Georgia.
Anybody else have something that they want to talk to us? Yes, Elliot. I have reminded them and reminded them. I can remind them again tomorrow. We have our list of 440 some Democrats that we're happy to remind. I don't like to overwhelm them with mail. I try to stick to about once a week or maybe twice if it's really important. But I would be happy to remind them again. Yes, Renee? Right, okay. Vote. It's not just for the Republicans. Right. Right. Well, and the other thing is, too, now here in Lowndes County, we don't have any other ballot initiatives on this primary ballot, but up in some of the North Georgia counties, they actually have ballot initiatives. They're voting on SPLOSTs and Linares? Okay, so other local counties have SPLOSTs right now. So if you don't go vote in the primary, then you don't get your chance to vote on that. That will be very important in the summer primary, because in the summer primary, we will vote on the T-SPLOST. So the legislature didn't change the date of that to November the way that people really wished that they would. So the T-SPLOST for us will be on the summer ballot. So that's important. Another thing that's coming up, which I forgot to tell you earlier, the Democratic caucus to elect delegates to the National Convention will be April the 21st. It will be in Waycross at the courthouse. If you want to run for one of the 5 seats that are available, you need to have your paperwork into Atlanta by March the 22nd. We will elect 2 women and 3 men out of the 1st Congressional District. That will be by caucus. The check